Welcome to this week's edition of More Insights and Strategy, Game Time Tech. I think we're on episode 13. I'm Robert Kramer with Melody Brue. We're both VP and Principal Analysts here at More Insights, and we're talking about sports technology today. We're going to go over what technology is influencing the NFL. I have my apropos jacket on, and also there's a new golf league going on that's focused on technology. But just a quick disclaimer, this show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. While we will discuss publicly traded companies on this show, its contents should not be taken as investment advice. I always like to say, convince people we might want to think about our investment advice, but you don't want to. Anyways, Mel, pretty cool stuff with the NFL. I mean, I was really hoping that my boys in Buffalo would get past the Chiefs to be in there. And the Super Bowl was kind of a little bit not as exciting if you were not a Philadelphia Eagles fan. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't glued to the TV to be honest, but what I did catch of it was good. Um, I, I think it was, I guess, a surprising outcome for a lot of people. People were expecting the Chiefs, and I think, some just for kind of like historical reasons wanted the Chiefs for a three-peat, but um, I thought that there's definitely some interesting things happening around the technology there, and I think some technology that some people wish was happening that
Yeah,
didn't happen. Some of the calls that people wish that they could have like made like can AI make that decision because they think that it was a bad call or something. Um, but in general, I think, there was a lot of pre-planning on the technology side, a lot of technology used during the game. As usual, I think one of the big things that we talk about with the technology in stadiums is the connectivity.
yep.
And, in these stadiums, I think one of the big things is can people use their phones? Are people able to get in touch with people? That people want to be on social media, and this is one of the things we'll talk about in this episode, which is some really kind of fun and interesting stats coming from Verizon. But even just preparing for these types of crowds, not just in the stadium but around it. We've talked about this with like major games, like the MLB All-Star game. So T-Mobile, in preparation for this game, put a bunch of kind of upgrades in and around the stadium. So
Hmm.
upgraded indoor distributed antenna systems, IDAS. So ultra capacity 5G, and then a bunch of upgraded macro cells just all across the area. So, and I think a bunch more, but yeah, big investments into network upgrades across the state.
Hmm.
And I just think, we'll talk about this in the Verizon report, but it's so important, and the way that people want to experience games now, that people can use their devices and people can be connected.
Yeah, you remember we used to go to games 20 years ago. We were, with our phones, you couldn't even get on you couldn't even make a phone call necessarily. So they've done a really good job, and I think that's kudos to the like you said, T-Mobile and other companies like Verizon and Qualcomm with a lot of the devices themselves. So they're making these stadiums smart stadiums, and then they're able to make these stadiums able to do a lot more than just, with the mobile, they're able to do a lot more for the broadcasters, for the fans to be more engaged, for the teams to take advantage of the technology because the stadiums are smart and everybody's able to be more connected. But what do you think was some of the most interesting technology that you saw during the game or read about the game?
I think one thing that I find super interesting, and I'm going to say a tiny bit surprising, is using blockchain for ticketing.
Hmm.
Um, there has been so much fraud in ticketing, and ticket sales are really hard, with people. There's been so much, not just like fraud on, for the leagues, but for people will show up to concerts and events, and they will have tickets that were sold to them that maybe they sold to two or three other people. And so the use of, and they get there's no way to get their money back because they probably like Venmo these people, or used, I think a lot of times it was like the Cash App or something. Um, so the use of blockchain for these ticketing experiences, I think, is really interesting. I'd like to, yeah, maybe you have a little bit more information, but I'd like to dig in a little deeper on how they're using that. But I think that's a
Yeah,
very interesting use
I
case.
think that's a huge thing because of the security. It eliminates that it could be used a second time, that same ticket. So it's
Mhm.
delineated to that specific ticket. Actually, a friend of mine about 5 years ago got a World Series ticket. It was a fraudulent one. He actually went to the gate, tried to go in, and they're like, "You can't. This isn't a real ticket." But it sold to him exactly
Yeah,
the appearance of a real ticket. So I think what's happening is there's facial recognition, there's blockchain, there's you cannot use the same ticket twice. It has to be bona fide, mechanisms that we just talked about. So I think it's being done in a way different way now from that fraudulent. These ticket people used to buy thousands of tickets up front, and then you couldn't even buy one if you were an average fan, and you'd have
yeah,
to buy it from these people, and they'd mark up the price. I think those days are slowly going away because of some of the security that's in place,
yeah.
specifically like the blockchain. So, what I liked is the streaming services because you remember, like, also as we go back the years, it was on at this time. You had to watch it on that network, and it was the same
Mm.
broadcasters on that one network. But now it's on multiple networks. It's in different regions for languages, different audiences, and so you're able to pick which is the best view for you and the best network. So I think that changes it and also makes things a little different from a sustainability standpoint. You don't need 100 trailers out there, one for each region. It could be streamed
Mhm.
to the cloud and then take advantage of that service that the technology is available. And I think that probably also goes back to the smart stadium having the capabilities for those streaming services.
Yeah, definitely. That helps too with being able to really customize it for audiences. Like
Yep.
you have a different audience who might be on YouTube versus on you know a local channel versus a Peacock or whatever. So you can really kind of get to know that audience, and even there's in some cases who's watching at a particular moment, or kind of be able to change things, and advertisers are able to target consumers based on that particular demographic.
And I think it's great for the sport because they're able to get fans in different regions and get more fans to instead of just the standard broadcast. So it's able to elevate the fan experience and more fans at different ages and languages and cultures for specifically something like this. This might have been one of the probably one of the highest ranked. I'm not sure. I have to go check, but it said it was one of the higher ranked Super Bowls watched. So I think these sports are going to just elevate because I think one of the goals is for the United States and the different sports they have is how do you get the countries outside of the United States interested. But the one thing that I think that they, and I'll leave it at this, I don't like the time that it's at, and I think it kind of hurts them when they broadcast so late to get these other countries because they're all
Mhm.
going to be like 6 hours ahead, 12 hours ahead, or whatever it is. And so it's hard for them to watch it. But the on demand, I guess, takes care of that. But the 50 states highlighting the small businesses the game. What was your thoughts with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the fun things about the Super Bowl always is the commercials. So, Google did some commercials. They did 50 different states, 50 stories highlighting small businesses. Um, and one of the funny things about this was that somebody called them out on Twitter, X, sorry. I always do that. I think this is going to be like a lifelong habit. Um, Called them out on X about the Gemini, one of the queries being incorrect. And I think it was like, what's the most popular cheese or something like that. And it, from multiple sources, it turns out that it's not correct, or some sources say it's not, and some sources say it is. But the funny thing is that things like that end up getting more attention than the commercial itself. So I would say that it ends up being a success. But
Yep.
I think it's great to show. One of the things, and I actually just coincidentally published something on Google Workspace, their new AI plans, pricing plans today in Forbes. And one of the things is the biggest thing about AI is one of the biggest things is adoption. It's
Yep.
pricing and adoption. And so getting in front of small businesses and getting people to use it is really, I think, super smart. So getting that audience in front of small businesses, highlighting small business use cases, that's a really great way to show that. And again, with the types of broadcasts now, they can do these really targeted ads and have 50 different ones in different regions. They don't have to have one
That's a really good
that,
point.
yeah.
I love the Salesforce one. I thought that was very good with the AI agents with Matthew McConaughey. And then I said his name probably wrong, but also Uber Eats was really good too. And I think that it's a lot of the technology companies are really, they're showcasing how AI and AI agents is a really strong component. And through the commercials, it was interesting how they were able to show that. And so I like Salesforces, by the way. So
Yeah.
anyway,
So this isn't Super Bowl, but if you haven't seen it, ServiceNow has some really funny AI agent commercials. I don't know if they're actual commercials. They're explainer videos. You can see them on LinkedIn. They're funny, like actually really
yeah,
funny.
maybe we could throw that in the show notes if we want. Make
They're
someone.
really good.
Yeah, is
They're
it? I've seen a series of theirs, and they do a good job. So,
yeah,
um,
I
so then,
think it's funny.
so what we have some really good, interesting things when we kind of segue from technology from T-Mobile to Verizon.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, so we were talking about, really being able to target consumers and everything. And I think these types of things, Verizon did this consumer connections report, and it goes across a bunch of different things, but I kind of honed in on the sports part of it because it showed some really interesting things about mobility usage for NFL fans at games. So this was just during the regular season. They didn't get into the playoffs or the Super Bowl, or I would have kind of tied that into this discussion. But this was during the 2024-2025 regular season. So the mobility usage was up 37% year over year, and calls were up 8% in the same period. And video accounted for a quarter of that, like data usage, all
Mhm.
within NFL stadiums. So that means that while people are at games, they're not just sitting and watching the game. They're actually doing a bunch of different things, right? They're probably connecting with friends. They're sharing their experiences on social media. They're probably like tracking their fantasy leagues. They're checking scores on other games. They're doing all different kinds of things. So I think this is so important, for so many things. One, it really allows brands to be able to, kind of track that data usage and see, one, this is just Verizon alone. So we're not talking about like that's the whole stadium data usage. That's
Mhm.
Verizon customers only. And and understand that the fan engagement, that they do want to be, they're not just sitting and watching the game. They're doing other things. And it also just reiterates again that the connectivity in stadiums is so important.
Yeah, I mean, what about like they're actually could be selling their gear to the fans, and certain links are showing up on their phone if they have like like a game app, that the fans are sitting there, like you said, social media. But what about doing retail shopping so they don't have to get up and go buy their stuff, or they
Yeah,
can and get food, or it all could be done through that mobile app.
that's
I
true. I mean, that's a good point. At Petco Park, the Padres stadium where we went when we were in San Diego,
Mhm.
there is an app where you can order food to your seat. So, I mean, it is really important just for their own, retail and food and beverage sales for them to have really good connectivity. So, yeah, really good point on that.
But I think it's like you said, like that smart stadium, the connectivity. What we've talked about is just the starting point. There's so much that they could be doing for the fans to keep them engaged, and that mobile app, when you walk in, maybe it's something that you download immediately, and that there's different things that they can participate in, buy, get their food, go get their food when they go show up. I mean, how many people actually buy merchandise there or want to buy merchandise because they have to go wait in line, or it's kind of not close to where they're at? Maybe that's delivered too. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for more, money to be made in more fan engagement. But I'm wondering, even from a broadcast standpoint, like if you needed, you can't, you need special hearing, or you needed it in a different language. I think the app could go as far as you want it to go to really help fans get more engaged. I'm not sure if that's on that data sheet, but it looks like the data sheet has a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things on it. I don't think it had any like specific apps they were using at. It does have things, specific apps that people were using in general, but not during NFL games. But um, so we were talking about in stadium. Now let's talk about not in stadium. So I want to hear what you think about this new TGL golf,
I'm a
which is.
huge. It's super neat. What I mean, did you recently come across it, or have you ever watched it yet, or not yet?
So I have seen bits of it, and I've seen some really strong opinions about it. I think one I sent to you. There was somebody who had really strong opinion about the device that they are using
The
to,
simulator.
yeah, the simulator device, and its accuracy in
Yep.
comparison to other simulators on the market. So
Yeah.
I think for me, there's a couple interesting things about this league. It's super interesting that the players are playing, multiple days a week out on the course, and then they're playing in this simulator. It just seems it's interesting.
Well, it is. But it's after the fans, though. I think it's getting everybody condensed into like a small area, and TGL stands for tomorrow's golf league. So it's
Hmm.
about the future using technology, and I think they're fine tuning it. But at the same time, it's using that technology to get the fans all in one spot where they don't have to like walk the course. They can get the pleasures of a stadium instead of weather conditions, walking conditions. And I think the one thing that I agree with what you said, I'll kind of turn back to because I interrupted you. But the one thing they did is they've gotten the stars in there. You have Tiger Woods and Rory
Yeah.
McIlroy. Is the main I guess founders. So Rory and Tiger, and then you have another dozen stars that have different teams. So I think there's like six different teams, maybe more. And then they play against each other. It's on ESPN and ESPN Plus. So I think that they're getting the use of the talent, but in the technology. But like you said, the technology might be not as correct. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think the real thing here is that they're trying to make it quick, right? It's a 2-hour match, and a typical golf, 18 holes with that many players, you're going to be watching all day long, like
Right.
sometimes we'll have golf on the TV here all day on a Sunday, and it's slow. And
Right.
some people really enjoy that. But I think TGL is really going after kind of the younger sort of YouTube crowd, and
Hmm.
they want short clips. They want quick. They want, like this is and there's so much more access to the players. The players are mic'd up. They can hear everything they're talking about. It's more casual, so they're kind of joking around. They're not dressed as formally. Like it's they're going after a different audience for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's like kind of some of that traditional golf fan that's watching, but I do think that they're really going after kind of a younger, like more in a hurry, more like that watching TikTok, YouTube, short attention span type of fan. And they're probably, that for those fans, if they probably don't care as much about the accuracy. And I can't substantiate those claims that that device isn't the most accurate, but they, like you said, they got a lot of players to sign up for this, and it's on ESPN and ESPN Plus, and they've got play by play. They've got, yeah, it's a
It's definitely hokey, looking, because of what you. So they hit into a simulator, and so they have different golf courses, and then they have a putting green with sand traps. So then they'll go up and actually hit those sand shots or hit the putt. I think they can adjust the putting green based upon the course that they're at in the hole. But I think that I saw what you're talking about. That I think Tiger hit a shot. It was supposed to be 99 yards, and he shot it like 150, and the simulator took it to the 150. And there's some other players who have done that too. But the basis of the program, I think, is a winner. I think that it showcases what technology could do for the to inspire fans to be more engaged because it's all about fan engagement. And it's also showcased on ESPN, which gets prime time, like you said. It's on, with it's got the different broadcasters, and then the fans can hear what the players are saying. So I think it's more of it's a casual, atmosphere. But when you go to golf, you cannot get a lot. You're secluded to that city to be and walking, but at the same time, this opens it up for national exposure.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's fun. I do like that you get to kind of hear the banter. There's, like it's almost like, I think it's sort of like taking tennis and pickleball. It's like it's not really golf. It's
Exactly.
it's sort of like a pickleball version of tennis. You know what I mean?
I like the way you said that.
That's
Yep.
it's so
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
I think it'll be interesting to see. I mean, SoFi is the big sponsor, and they put a lot behind this, and so I think it'll be interesting to see, where this goes and kind of what I'd love to see what the fan base looks like and, when they have some real good numbers behind that. But
Yep.
well,
Yep.
this was good. I think, do we have anything else you want to chat about before we wrap this up?
No, I think this has been great. We're kicking off the year with some great stuff with sports. We have a lot coming up with the next couple of months. We'll have hopefully some customers on talking about their technology. So we'll look forward to that.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been great. And thanks to everybody who has joined us for this edition of Game Time Tech. If you like what you saw, please hit that subscribe button and join us next time. If there's anything you want to see on future editions, just shoot us a note on X. I got it right this time. or LinkedIn. Let us know what you like, what you didn't like, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.